The morning sun seemed to rise specifically for them, or at least that was how Sora felt during the countless years she spent walking 2 steps behind Haru. They were childhood friends, a pair whose names were spoken in a single breath by everyone. For Sora, Haru was the center of her universe, a constant presence she nurtured with quiet devotion. To everyone else, they were inseparable, but to Sora, there was a growing distance, a gap created by Haru's unintended cruelty of indifference. Every morning began with a familiar ritual. Sora would wake up early to prepare 2 bento boxes. One was modest, while the other was a vibrant masterpiece filled with Haru's favorite foods. She presented it to him with a shy smile, which he would accept with a casual wave, his eyes already scanning the hallway for something else. During their study sessions, she would explain complex theories while he doodled in his notebook, complaining about his latest crush. Sora was his emotional anchor, never realizing he was breaking Sora's heart every time he spoke another girl's name. Haru viewed Sora as a permanent fixture, like the air he breathed. He never stopped to think about what it cost her to keep smiling while he obsessed over the school's most popular girl. He would spend hours detailing his plans to win the other girl over, asking Sora for advice. Sora would listen, her fingers tightening around her sketchbook, her chest aching with a persistent throb. She was the one who stayed up late helping him, yet he would forget to thank her as he rushed off. The breaking point arrived on a Tuesday. It was Sora's birthday. She had hoped, perhaps foolishly, that this year might be different. But when they met, Haru didn't mention it. Instead, he pulled her aside, asking her to help him pick out a gift for the popular girl he was finally going to ask out. He didn't see the way Sora's eyes dimmed as she pointed toward a delicate silver chain. He was too consumed by his own anticipation to notice that his best friend was standing right in front of him, silently breaking into pieces. Later that evening, Sora waited at their usual meeting spot under a sprawling oak tree. The sky turned purple, then opened into a cold downpour. She checked her phone repeatedly, her dress getting soaked as the minutes turned into an hour. Then she saw him. Haru was across the street, huddled under an umbrella with the popular girl. They were laughing, their faces close together. Haru didn't even look toward their spot. He had cancelled their plans with a late text she hadn't seen, too busy enjoying a moment Sora had dreamed of. Standing alone in the rain, Sora finally felt the cold. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. It wasn't just the weather, it was the realization that she had spent her life building a pedestal for someone who didn't even know she was there. Returning home dripping wet, Sora didn't cry. Instead, she sat at her desk and picked up her phone. Her fingers moved with surgical precision. She opened her gallery and began deleting every photo of them together, the festivals, the study dates, the childhood memories. She cleared their entire chat history, watching years of conversations vanish. Finally, she scrolled to his contact and hit the block button. It was a silent execution of a relationship that had only ever lived in her heart. The next morning, Haru woke up late, frustrated that Sora's usual wake-up call hadn't come. He sent a demanding text asking where she was and reminding her he needed help with homework. He hit send, but instead of the usual reply, a small gray icon appeared. Message not delivered. It was a sight he had never encountered in all their years together. The silence from Sora was the loudest thing he had heard. Haru stared at the red exclamation mark next to his unsent message, a frown deepening. He tapped it again, but the status remained unchanged. Sora was always there, her phone on, her replies instantaneous. He figured her battery had died, or she had dropped it in the rain. He didn't even consider that he had stood her up. His mind was too full of his success with the popular girl he had been chasing. He walked to their meeting spot, expecting to see Sora waiting under the oak tree, bag clutched. But the spot was empty. The rain-slicked pavement reflected only the grey, indifferent sky. A flicker of annoyance rose. She was being dramatic, he decided, probably running late to make a point. As the day progressed, the cracks in Haru's life widened. He had missed the first bus because no one had called to wake him up, arriving at school disheveled. When lunchtime arrived, he reached into his bag only to find it empty. There was no beautifully arranged bento, no thoughtful note. He sat at his table, stomach growling, realizing he didn't even have money for the cafeteria because he had spent it all on a gift for another girl. He looked for Sora, but she wasn't at her seat. He tried to find her during the break, but the person who always listened was nowhere to be found. For the first time, Haru had to navigate the school day alone. During the afternoon, he finally saw her. She was walking across the courtyard, surrounded by students from the art club. Her long hair, which she had always kept in a ponytail because he liked it, was now cut into a stylish bob. She was laughing, a genuine sound that echoed across the space. There was a radiance about her, a newfound independence that made her seem different. She looked complete without him. Haru stood frozen by the lockers, watching from a distance. He noticed for the first time how the sunlight caught the gold in her eyes and how her smile illuminated everything when it wasn't clouded by the effort of pleasing him. Desperate to reclaim the status quo, Haru intercepted her in the hallway. He stepped into her path, a cocky grin on his face to hide his unease. He started to make a joke about her disappearing act, but the words died when she looked at him. Her gaze was calm and utterly devoid of the longing that usually resided there. When he called her name, she didn't flush. Instead, she gave him a small, polite nod, the kind of distant acknowledgement one gives to a casual acquaintance. She didn't stop walking. She simply moved around him with a soft, "Excuse me," and continued her conversation with another boy. Haru felt struck. The invisibility he had forced upon her had shifted. Now he was the one who didn't exist. The popular girl he had worked to impress noticed the exchange. She leaned against the lockers, her expression one of amused mockery. She asked why he was acting so clingy, laughing at how he looked like a lost puppy without his assistant. She called Sora his little servant, and the words stung Haru like a physical blow. He realized then that he hadn't been the leader. He had been the one being cared for. Sora had been his foundation, and he had treated her like a background character in his story. Without her, he was just a disorganized, lonely boy with no one to truly see him. Later, Haru wandered toward the art room, hoping he might find her. The room was empty, the scent of turpentine hanging heavy. As he turned to leave, his foot brushed a crumpled piece of paper near the trash bin. He picked it up and smoothed it out. It was a detailed sketch of him, drawn with such tenderness. It captured a moment of joy on his face he didn't remember. At the bottom, in Sora's delicate handwriting, were the words, "My everything." But the paper was torn, stained with a dried tear, and discarded amongst the rubbish. He stood in the silent room, clutching the paper, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had thrown away. Haru's life became a frantic search for the Sora he had carelessly discarded. He started lingering by the art room, hoping for even a fleeting glimpse of her. When he finally caught her eye, he would try to present the snack she used to love. But Sora would only offer a small, polite smile, the kind for acquaintances, and tell him she wasn't hungry. Her indifference was a sharper blade than any anger could have been. He realized he didn't miss the bentos or the homework help. He missed the way she looked at him, as if he were the only person in the world worth seeing. Now her gaze passed through him like he was made of glass. The season shifted, and the cherry blossom trees began to shed their petals, covering the ground in a carpet of pink. It was under these trees, at their old meeting spot, that Haru finally cornered her. He was trembling, offering a desperate, tearful apology that felt years too late. He told her he finally saw her worth, that he understood the gravity of everything she had sacrificed for him. He promised to spend every day making it up to her if she would just give him one more chance to be the man she deserved. The scent of the flowers seemed to underscore the weight of his realization. Sora didn't cry. She didn't scream or throw his years of neglect back in his face. Instead, she stood perfectly still, her posture elegant and unburdened, watching a single petal land on her sleeve. When she finally looked up, her expression was profound peace. She explained with a voice as steady as a calm sea that she hadn't deleted him from her life because her love had suddenly vanished. She had done it because she realized her love for him had become a cage that prevented her from loving herself. She had been so busy being his shadow that she had completely forgotten how it felt to stand in the sun. Then came the truth that shattered what remained of Haru's pride. Sora told him she was leaving. She had been awarded a prestigious art scholarship, a long-held dream. She had never mentioned it because he had never once asked about her life, her aspirations, or the things that made her heart beat faster. He had been the center of her universe, and he hadn't even noticed the stars she was building for herself in the darkness. Haru fell to his knees, begging for a second chance, promising that he would follow her, that he would change everything. Sora looked down at him with a kindness that felt like a final goodbye. She shook her head, stating that some lessons in life can only be truly learned through the agony of loss. If she stayed, he would eventually revert to his old negligent self, and she would lose the person she had fought so hard to become. She walked away, leaving him under the falling blossoms, a boy finally awake in a world that no longer belonged to him. 3 months passed. The silence that once terrified Haru had become his teacher. He learned to wake himself up, to prepare his own meals, and to actually listen when people spoke to him. He became more responsible. One evening, while scrolling through a social media feed, he saw a new post. It was Sora. She was standing in a vibrant gallery in her new city, her eyes bright with a fire he had never seen before. She looked truly, radiantly happy, finally claiming her own destiny. For the first time, Haru didn't feel a surge of possessive jealousy or regret. Instead, he felt a quiet, distant pride. He tapped the small heart icon, a simple like that carried no weight of expectation. It was his first healthy interaction with her, an acknowledgement of her worth without needing anything. He put his phone away and looked out at the horizon. Sometimes, the greatest act of love isn't holding on tighter until everything breaks. It is the strength to let someone go, understanding that by losing them, you both finally have the chance to find yourselves.